Okay, so last week we completed basic commands and started the user administration. So we used the user add command to create a user, and then I explained to you what this user output is on all this here. Okay, so let's move forward here. So how is the practice going on? Anybody practicing at all? Okay, yeah. So it seems easy now, but you have all the document and everything. So I recommend practicing whenever you can. The formula, use that half hour, 45 minutes, 45 minutes. Okay.
Yes, I'm doing it.
Okay. If you have any questions, put that into the group so that everybody could see it and then they could reply it back to you. Okay. All right. So what we could do is we could create we could create this user manually also. Okay. So let's take a look here. What will happen if we create a user manually? So what I'm gonna do is uh, let's see here. So let's go ahead and create the first user manually. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in here, vi slash etc slash password. This file holds the user information here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this line, and then I'm gonna create a user one. Okay, so the name of the user I'm gonna create is uh, let's see here. Okay, user one, and then I'm gonna leave this alone here, and then the user ID and group ID I'm gonna change that. Okay, and then the home directory is gonna be slash home slash user one. Okay, and then he will be using the bin bash, so I will leave this alone.
Sir, can you also start recording the session? I think it's not being recorded.
It's recording.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep, it's recording. I just can check this. So okay, so we created the user here, user one. Alright, so I'm gonna escape and save and exit. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the password. Create him in the set the password in the password file here. So what is the password file? Um, Let me copy this here first. So you could definitely copy most of the commands or most of the information from above. So this is what you copied here. Okay, is that fair enough? Okay, so I'm not gonna put down save and exit and all that. It's pretty much understandable. Okay. All right. So the next thing I'm gonna do is um, create a user manually. So this is the one you did here, and now add password. So the password file is vi etc shadow. This file holds the password for you. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep everything else for the same thing. So I'm gonna do YYP. So it copied this line here into the a line below it. Okay, I'm gonna come here, and then the only thing I'm gonna change here is user one. Okay, so when I log in, it will keep the same password as Zafar. Okay, and then also it will be the same thing. The password expiration and all those would be, it will keep the same thing here. So there will be the password, and it's been so many days since it was created, grace period, expiration, and the ID will be disabled in 7 days. So it's gonna keep all that. Okay, so I'm gonna save and exit. Okay, so this is saying read only option is set, add to overwrite.
Sir, what is ETC shadow doing?
What do you mean ECG shadow doing? You tell me. Right here. Okay, the so etc shadow.
Yes, this.
So
Oh,
this is where all the password is kept.
oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
Okay, password
Yes.
file.
But sir, I just wanted to ask one more thing. So what is the reason why we are making the uh, user as in like a manually? Like, what is the reason of it?
So sometimes what happens is there is a application, it will be using only one ID, and then they want the same user across all the computers here. Okay, so when you create a user uh, manually, what you could do is instead of like copying this line here, you'll be copying this entire line from another computer, and then you're putting in here. So what will happen is when the application is going to hit this computer, the authentication and all those will be staying same here. So it will create less headache for the application team. Okay, so
Um,
you will understand more when you progress through. But here's the thing here. The reason I'm creating manually is if the application is using same exact user, okay, and the password. This is the password here. Even though you don't see the human readable password here, this is an alphanumeric password which is encrypted here. So when you create this password here, you as an administrator won't know the password, but the end users who are using the same user ID somewhere else, it will keep their password same. Okay, would that answer your question?
I guess.
Okay, good. But it's giving me problem here. Why can't I save it? Okay. Okay, so the password is there. And then so user one is there. Now what I need to do is I need to worry about adding groups here. Okay, so actually what I'll do here is over here, password file. So that you're not confused, you know this here. And user file. And then what was this one here? What file? This is a group file. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the group file, cat etc group, and then I'm going to put him in the group also. So what I'm going to do is vi etc group. Okay. So I'll go down here and I'll copy and paste. And then we said the user one, his group is 1001. So I'm going to change that here. Okay, so I'll go down here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna log in as a user one here. So I'm gonna go duplicate session and I'm gonna put down user one and then the password. I'm gonna use the same password as I had for Zafar because I just copied and pasted there. So the password should work. Okay, so the password, now you see the password is there, but the home directory is not there. So you have to create the home directory also manually. So where do I go for creating a home directory? cd home, and if I do ls-l, there is only home directory for Zafar here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is mkdir, and then I'm going to give the directory name Zafar user one. Okay, so let's exit here and I'm going to come back again. Okay, duplicate user one. Okay, now if you do pwd, he should land into the user one here. Now you should notice here that over here you see the difference between here, right? You're seeing here he's logged in as root and all this information is there, but he is just sitting here as a bash prompt here. So you do ls-l a and you barely see any user directories are in there. Okay, so what you got to do, you got to copy the some defaults directory for this guy here. So let's do that. All right, let me copy all this. So you created this directory here, mkdir user one. Okay, and everything else looks good here. Okay, so the definitions, it's called the login definitions here. You see how this looks totally different. Here it doesn't have any directories here. So if you do ls-la, we have other default directories in here: bash history, logout, login profile, bash rc, crc. So where is this default directory? Where is this default directories are? They are in the login definitions here. So what you do is cd etc login defs. Hold on.
Sir, why are these files needed for the user? Is there any specific reason that we have to copy?
These are the configuration files.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we need all these here. Uh, shadow. Okay, yeah, I forgot to tell you about this file here. What is this file is? This is the default configuration file of the each user here, okay? Okay, look at it here. Pass max is, that means password. Password maximum days is, we have it set here by default as end of days here. And the minimum password days is 0. Okay, password minimum length is 5. If you try to put password length less than 5, it won't accept, but the root user could do anything you want. It's overridden for root user when it's assigning the password. But when the regular user is setting the password less than 5 characters, then it won't accept that. Okay, and then the password warning, this is the age here. Remember I talked to you last week that age of the password will be 7. That means it will start prompting you 7 days before the password is disabled. On the 7th day, if you didn't change the password, then it will disable itself. And then you could come around here and start fiddling around here. So your minimum default ID here, if I change it to 2000, and if the new user is being created, it will start from 2000. This is, see, you notice here all our users are being created using 1000, right? In here the user starts with 1000 and then the next user is 1001. So all those settings are being set in this file here. If I set this here 2000 here, the new user will, when we create a new user, he will have the new ID starting from 2000 here. And then the maximum ID, so it's gonna go from the 1000 to 60,000. Okay, then it will give you problem here. It will stop at 60,000 and tell you what you want to do next year. So if you have 60,000 users, then you better be managing it with a different way. Okay, so over here system UID minimum is 100 and the maximum is 999. So let's see which one it's looking at. ID system accounts. Okay, okay, I think when it hits the 1000 mark, it will start prompting you. You have hit the maximum UIDs. Okay, this is what this is. Okay, and then the group ID is the same thing. If you want, you could customize all these here. Okay, and UMask, I'm going to go over it a little bit later in permissions. Don't worry about that. And to be honest with you, most of the time this file is left alone. You don't fool around with this too much, except you come here and change this one here. Usually you set this as 60 days. After 60 days, any user you created a new password, it will prompt you to change the password within next 7 days. Okay, so Okay, so you get the idea here. So you know what, just for you to show you this here, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this here. I'm gonna change this to 2000. When the next user is created, his ID will be 2000 and his group ID will be 3000. Okay, and then what else we need to fool around with? uh, Group ID, yeah. Okay, and create home, yes. It will automatically create the home directories of the user, permissions, uh, user group, enable. Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay, now this user, we need to give him the same directories as any other user here. So if I log in here as Zafar, see how this user has all his default directories and everything in here. All these are bash, some hidden files in here, but this user only has these two hidden files here, okay? So what we're gonna do is we'll copy this from the directory that gives out the default user directories. Okay, so what is that directory? Let's take a look here. Okay, so the default directories is sitting into this directory here. CD etc. What is the etc folder do? We went through the directories here, right? Each directory, as we go progress through, what the moment we were going to etc, short for etc. What is the etc folder holding? What information it holds? So etc folder holds.
Configuration files.
Yeah, very good. Any system configuration file that need to be changed or anything like that, all those things are going into the etc directory. We have thousands of configuration files in here. Okay, so the configuration folder, for the default configuration folder, when the user is automatically created, it's doing all this thing automatically. Okay, it's creating the user, it's creating the password. Now password you have to assign using the user add password, but it's making the entry in here, etc shadow file. etc group file is going to add the group. Okay, and then it creates the home directory for the user. Okay, and then it will copy the default directories also. So we're going to go into this folder, scale. Okay, and then I do ls-l. It's not there, so I do ls-la. Okay, so these three files we have in here. We have these three hidden files. We need to copy to this folder here for this guy, newly manually created here. So what is the command? What is the copy command?
CP.
Yeah, cp, and then we are copying we're copying these files here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do asterisk B and an asterisk, and then where am I going to copy this? Slash home slash user 1. Okay, all right, I'm going to hit enter. So what does this means? Period slash all this, what does it mean? This is going to copy all the 3 files here that's starting with the period. Okay, so if I do ls-la, all 3 files are copied here in this folder. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit and come back in here. Let me log in, duplicate session, user 1, and I'm going to give the password. Now you see, now the user has a proper prompt. Now do you see the change here? He has a proper prompt here. This is a bash prompt. Okay, all right, good. You all got the idea, right? What we just did?
Yes, little bit. We're gonna do a practice, and then we're gonna understand what's going on.
Yeah. You have this master document at your disposal and the video. So this
So can you tell one more thing? Like while you are making a user manually, so you just actually created a user manually. So
mhm.
is there any possible way we can copy a user manually?
We did that. This is what we're doing.
No, so you actually created the user manually, then you start copying. It's all like a bash logout and a bash profile and RC files.
Usually
Then you
that
just copy.
scenario comes in when you're copying from another computer.
Okay.
Okay, so you most of the time instead of changing the username, I change copy to first line, and then change it to the bottom. Most of the time you copy it from another computer and just throw it in there. So let me give you another example here. So they have 10 application servers and they're adding 11th one in there, right? What you do is you copy the user information from the existing server to this server here.
Um,
Okay?
okay.
Yeah. It's I mean your questions are valid, but
I'm just a little bit confused. Like while we are making users manually, and you said that this bash logout and bash profiles, these these files are hidden files of the system, right? So they should become with the new user which we are making.
yeah, if the system is creating, then it will do it. If you're creating manually, system doesn't know that.
Okay, so if we are doing manually, then then we have to go this all through this process.
Yeah.
Okay, now I get it. Now I understand. Now.
So what we did
Okay.
here last week, we created username, we created user, we created password, boom, and we logged in. So what did happen in the background here is it messed around with this file here, it messed around with this file here, it updated this file, and then it created the directory, and it did all these things to for you in matter of seconds, and you didn't feel anything. So this is really important for you as a good engineer or admin to know what all these configuration files are happening and where are all these updates are happening and all that. Okay. Okay, good. So, um, let me see here. What else I need to do is so one other thing I have to do here is I have to change the ownership here. So this is, I mean, I will explain you how the ownership is working. It's called permissions here. So that's another chapter, but there is no other way. I have to show this uh, without doing it at this moment here. So let me see here. But hold on. So now the default directories are there, and so I copied all this here. So now if you see here, the owner of this files here are, we can't change the ownership for these files here, but the ownership for these files is root here. So we need to change it to the user. So look in here, you see the user is all changed here. Bash history, profile, and all that. Okay, so I copied this here. Okay, now you see the user root is over here. When the system created this, the permissions, the owner, and then the group belongs to Zafar here. So we need to change this here. So we're gonna do ch own, change ownership. Okay, and then I'm gonna do user1 colon user1. Okay, don't worry about this command now. I'm gonna explain this lot detail when we start the permissions. Okay, so let's see if it has changed user own, and name of the directory user1. Okay, so it has not changed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do rm-rf so I go into cd etc scale, and I'm gonna run this command here. Okay, so the owner of this files is user here. Okay, so I'm gonna make some changes here. So and ch own. Now provide the permissions to user1. Okay, and you could go in there and copy this as a user yourself over here. So I'm gonna go in here and copy myself. Um, okay, so okay, yeah, I need to remove this. Okay, and if I do ls-la, and you have the ownership. Okay, why is this important? Because it will be using this information here to update the profiles and all that here. Okay, so all right, so root, what is the root user directory? Just a slash root, and then any regular user directory, it would be slash home slash the username. Okay, okay, in this prompt and in this prompt, do you guys see any difference here? Do you see any difference over here and difference over here?
The dollar sign and the hash sign.
Yeah, very good. Okay, whenever you see the dollar sign here, that means this is a root user logged in here. And the regular user, he starts with the dollar sign. So hash and dollar sign are the root user and the regular user. So let me put that here. So just by looking at the prompt, you should be able to tell the difference between a root user and a regular user here. All right, so let's recap. So the user definitions are set in this folder here. Okay, let's go ahead and create a new user. I'm gonna say user add okay, so user add, I'm gonna give it a name here. terminator. Okay, and I'm going to set the password. So I'm as an admin, I could set any password, but when you're setting as a password as a regular user, it won't allow you. It will ask you to set a complex password. Okay, remember that. Okay, and if I do ID terminator, okay, now you see here, instead of starting from 1000 series, it's starting from 2000 series, and then the group ID is 3000, and then the groups it belongs to is 3000. Okay, where is this information coming here? Because we messed around with this login etc/etc/ login dot definition. We messed around in this file, and it's going to update all this information over here. Okay, so you could customize that file.
It just because it's a root file, right? It's a root user, right? That is the reason it's doing it, right, sir?
No, what do you mean root user? Root user,
Like
root user.
like a main file.
Yeah, all these important files only the root has access. The other user don't.
Like a user one don't have access on these files.
No, no.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, so uh, I think I need to start the permissions here. Why? Okay, so I'm debating. Okay, now now let's talk about elevating some users here. Some users, they need to be able to run some commands as if they are a super user. Okay, so what we'll call those user as pseudo user here. So give me 1 second, I'll explain what it is. Okay, let me delete this here. So we have user administration. I'm going to set this here. So now let's talk about, in Linux it's there is something called a sudo access. Okay, sudo, sudo. Okay, what does this means is, this means super user do. So what a sudo stands for is super user do as a super user would do. Okay, super user access. Let's see what's the definition here. Sudo. Okay, yeah, I like this here. So this is the definition here. So what it's going to do is sudo is a program for Linux computer operating system that allows user to run program with the security privileges of another user. In this case, root user. Okay, root user. Sudo user. Sudo adding an entry. No. Which files? Okay, how do I give okay, so let's see. As a regular user, let's see here. If a user kitcat etc var log. Okay, so the user has this permission. Um, I'm trying to find a file that the user doesn't have, and then we're gonna give them access, and we'll see if he could be able to read that file here. Example files here. Okay. Okay. So what a regular user could do is, if you are a system admin and you want to switch to root, okay. So if you want to run a root user command here, you have to run some commands here. So let's give this user a sudo access first, okay. So how are we gonna do this? So there is a file you have to um, so what you do is you go to vi sudo. Okay, so it will automatically bring up this configuration file here, and it need to be enabled wheel group. There's a lot of configuration in here. So what we are looking for here is this file is not checked here. Okay, it should look like this. So we are good. So how am I going to give the user the grant access? Okay. Okay, grant user sudo access. Okay, uh, for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, you just have to follow this VISUDO. Okay, and make sure this line is not commented out. I'm going to explain what the comment out little bit later here, but what it means is it doesn't have the pound sign before this. If you have a pound sign here, see how all these lines have pound sign before the beginning of anything. That means anytime you have a little hash here, that means the system is not going to read those files. It's going to read anything which doesn't have hash in front of it. So this file here, this line is readable here. Compared to this line is not readable. Any line that starts with hash is not readable. Okay, I'll explain you more when we do scripting. Okay, good. So how do I give the access here? I'm going to do user mod. And again, this is the permissions lesson. I do -a g wheel. I'm adding the user to the wheel group, and then I'm going to give it to user 1. Okay. So if I do ID user 1, and you see here he's a part of a group which is wheel. Okay, don't ask me why is it called wheel. That's how it is. It's built in. I'm confused myself. They should have named it something better, but it's named as wheel group. Okay, so I'm gonna do this here. Okay, so let's see here, cat etc var local. Okay, I'm gonna show you the simple way here. Let's not get confused here. So I want to, so this user, he's an administrator. So you log in here, and then this is how you become a root user. What you do is sudo su switch to user. Su stands for switch user. And then I'm going to do Red Hat password. User 1 is not a sudo or file here. So I'm going to exit and come back in here, okay? Let me come back here. root user 1. Now I want to become a root okay. Now you see the regular user, he became a root user now. Okay. Now he has a full admin access. All right, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to take questions here. So, any questions, speak up right now. So, to show you in the perspective, we have a user here, Zafar, right? If I do ID Zafar, he's not part of a wheel group. And if I try to do same thing, if I want to become a root user, sudo su hyphen, and it's asking for the password. I'm going to give the Zafar password. And it says Zafar is not a sudo or file. This incident will be reported. Ooh. So Zafar is just a regular user, and user 1 is now he's probably an admin, so he has a root access. So when you do a job interview, when you are saying like, is this position going to have a root access? And the interviewer said, no, this position will not have a root access. You said, no, thank you. You don't want to work there. Okay, there will be some positions that won't have root access. So you might want, we're not targeting for a junior level. We are targeting for a system admin level. It will give you a 6-figure salary, okay? So this is very important. When you're doing the interview, you ask the interviewer, is this going to be, before you begin the interview, okay, is this a sudo access, a root access position? And if that position doesn't give you root access, skip that job, okay? All right, let's continue. So let's see here.
So right now you just give access to Zafar, and at the same time, so user one gonna lose his access, right? Once you give it to Zafar.
No.
So
And right now,
they both go.
Zafar doesn't has the access. It says the user is not in a sudo file.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
So
user 1, I gave access to user 1 here. And now the user 1 has a root access privileges. He's a root now. He's a user, admin.
but uh, but if you give suppose if you give access to Zafar while user one was an admin at that time, so he gonna lose
No, no,
the
no.
adminship.
He's gonna keep
They
it.
both gonna
He's
they
gonna
both
keep.
gonna be admin.
Yeah, there will be admin. Yes.
Okay.
So here's the thing here. In real world scenario, you won't be logging directly into the system as root. You will be logging with your own user ID, then you will switch to root. So in this
Okay.
scenario, what is happening is the security will know who is logging in here, and then all this activity is being monitored here. It's highly monitored. All these systems, even in a smaller place, it's highly monitored. Let alone higher, like government systems or Apple or Google, all those systems are monitored 24/7, no exceptions. So now we know, okay, this user logged in and then he became root. And if you have done something wrong, that way they could backtrack who logged in where. Most of the time, you wouldn't know the root user password. Okay, sudo user, this user, one, he logged in with his own password and then he switched to root. When it asked for the password, you provided the user one password, not the root password, okay? Let's go through this again. So I'm going to clear this. Uh, it will probably won't ask for the password here, but let's log in one more time. I'm logging in as user 1 and I'm providing user 1 password. Okay, now I need to become a root because I need to perform some task. So I'm going to do sudo switch user hyphen. Okay, and then hit enter. So it's asking the password for user 1. It's not asking for the root password, okay? And I provided that. Now I became the root here. All right. Are you still confused or it's clear now?
Yeah, no, it's clear pretty much.
Okay, good. So in Linux, things looks complicated here, right? Because we're just doing it in a black window. Okay. But it is much easier compared to Windows. And it's just a strike of a command. You could do a lot of things here. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this here. It's asking for the password for uh, user 1, and then he became the root here. He didn't put the root password, but he became the root here. Why? Because he's in the we grant him to the wheel group here. He became he's a part of a wheel group, which is the sudo super user admin group. This is something built in here, so there is no way around it. Okay,
Uh,
so this is there.
um,
Yeah,
and
go
is
ahead.
it possible? And is it possible that we can, while we're making user one as an admin, so we can prioritize admin for some of the instructions some of the tasks he cannot do.
If he still stays as a user, there are some restrictions he cannot do.
Yeah, like we put a restrictions on him, like user one cannot do this kind of a task, and but yeah, he has access all over the system.
Usually, there are some items which are predefined already. A regular user can do. Like let's see here, cat etc warlog. I'm trying to find a file which user don't have access to. Cat
No, but
etc.
I just wanted to understand, like, while user is an admin, so what are the things he cannot do, or we can, or someone can put a restriction on him, on the admin, that he cannot do these things.
Once he become root, there is no restrictions.
You have a complete access on it.
Absolute access. Absolute access.
But it's being monitored in every way.
Yeah, most of these positions are trusted positions, so they make sure they know who they're hiring and have a good background and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's what I told you in the beginning of the class. Uh, the root user, he's a very trusted person. He would have access to all the company data and everything here. So I think I put it down here, right? Yeah. So he's a super user. Never share any password. Don't put in email. Root user. So this is where the weak link comes in. When you most of the time when you hear that there is a data breach or something, that means the outside user. Most of the time, it's an inside job. Okay. You heard about Equifax data breach or something? It probably is an inside job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they would have somebody inside leave a weak password and then provide information to hackers, and they just get in. Because Linux is very very secure by default. It's called unbreakable Linux. That's what it's usually called. Then again, if I provide a root password to somebody, whose problem is that? So if you don't have a human interaction in the system, then it is usually unbreakable. But unfortunately, we as a human log in, and some of them are greedier than other, and that's it. You have full access as a root user. So I put down here, root user has all access to the system and cannot be renamed, never share password or put in an email or share anything, and root user will. You will also have access to company data. You could see all the information inside. But then again, there is another group called security group. They're watching all the events and everything. So if you're not afraid of all that, so then
And how many system can have admins? Like we made, you said that we can make a two admins at the same time. So how, what is the numbers of the admins we can, maximum numbers we can have on the system?
well, the users are in thousands, unlimited users, and you could make
But
all those users admin too.
oh, okay. So thousands of admins and thousands of users.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I worked for Apple here, and in our immediate group, we have 40 admins, and we have like those around in each time zone. So we have East Coast 40, California 40 to 50, and other countries too. But if you are a root user and you have access to all the company servers here, when I work for Apple, they have 1 million server, and one time I was going into the servers in Singapore, Ireland, and it's just the same user password. That's it. You have full access, man. That's what I'm
Okay.
telling you. It's a great career when you have this job, and it's a very responsible. You have to be a very responsible person here. Don't misuse the root password. Even in the Windows environment, if you are a Windows administrator and you have an admin password, don't misuse it. Okay, so let's move forward here. And I want to hear from others also, if you are understanding this, or if you have any question, stop me right away. I'll explain you, okay? So let's create a group here, and then,
Sure, sir.
yeah. All right, somebody had a question?
No, sir, I was saying sure.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's see here. So what we're gonna do is groups. So far we've been just worried about the users here, right? So now we're gonna worry about the groups. I will take a look how the groups are. Create a user. Okay, and let me put here. Okay, so let me just pick this up here. So in Linux, groups are a mechanism to manage collection of computer users. All Linux users have a user ID and group ID and unique numerical ID number called user ID and a group ID called GID, group ID. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is let's see here. So I'm gonna add a group name. ID 3000. GID. Okay, so groups are in the folder etc group. Okay, and then this is where the group is there, Terminator 3000 here. So let me clear this here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a group add. It will create a group here, -G 4000. I'm just making up the group, and then I'm gonna give the group name HR, okay, human resource, okay, developer. I'm gonna give the group name developer here, okay. So if I go to cat etc group, so the group is added in here. The developer as a group is added, and his ID is 4000. Okay. This is the command here, group add, and he's copied here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a user to that group here, okay. So before that, let me just this is the command. This is what you did here, okay. And when you did group add, it creates the entry into this file here, okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign the user ID user1, and then he's part of wheel group here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add him to the developer here. So what I'm going to do is user user mod, okay, and -ag, okay, and then I'm going to give the name developer, and then I'm going to say user1. Okay, now if I ID user1, okay, he's a part of 3 groups now. He's a part of group 1001, he's a part of group 10, and he's a part of group developers. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, let me just copy this. So now he's a part of this group here. So let me clear this. I'm gonna make a folder name a developer, mkdir/developer. It's gonna create in the root directory here. So if I do ls-l developer, ld. Okay, so now the owner and the group are root here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the group to developer here. Okay, so the command is change group, and we'll learn all these commands here more into permissions when we're going to do that, probably tomorrow. So I'm going to change the group developer, and then I'm going to change it to this folder here. I think I did a mistake here. Yeah. You could do 4002. Change group, chgrp. Change group 4000, and then this group here. The folder name developer. Okay, if I do ls-ld, now you see the user is root and the developer is developer. Okay, and then we're gonna give the read write permissions here. chmod group plus w write. I'll show you more what all this means here, okay, next lesson. So if you do ls-ld, so the group has a read write access here, so bear with me. So he has a root access here, and then we change the group using the either you could use the group number or group name. Okay, you could definitely use the name or a number. And then if you do LSF and LD, he is the group owner now, and then we provided the read write access here. Okay, just bear with me with the permissions here. I don't want to ruin this. I will explain all this in detail in next lesson. So they had read write, the read write. Now we change the permissions here. Okay, so let's go in here as a user 1. Let's see here, duplicate session. CD developer. So I'm going to use touch file 1 and I do LSF and LA. So so what happened here is when I created the file here, it went to, the file is owned by user 1 and the group is also user 1 here. So but if you see the folder here, this is owned by developer here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to developer here. Whenever anybody who has access with the developer group, belongs to developer group, when they change it, it should automatically be set to user. File name will be user 1, the owner, but the group should change to developer here because he's a part of a developer. So how are we going to do that? We're going to change the ownership here. Okay, so the command is chown, change ownership. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, we're fine. chown, okay, so this is the ownership, colon, let me do this here, chown, let me see, touch file 2. I'm going to use the number here, 4000. Okay, so let's do ls-ld developer. Okay, now when we make any create files here, so this part should be developer here. So touch file 3. Okay, it's not doing it. Let me come back in there again. Duplicate session, user 1, Red Hat. ls-l touch file 4. Give me 1 second here. The permissions. Oh, okay. No, this is good here. But hold on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here as Zafar and cd. I'm going to say touch file 6. Okay, yeah. This is what I'm supposed to show you. Okay, so what happened here is a regular user, we set the permissions for the group as a developer here, right? So ID Zafar, he's not part of a developer group. So since he's not part of a developer group, he's not able to create any files in here. But the user 1, he's part of a developer group. ID user 1, and he's able to create files in here, okay? So that's what I was supposed to show you. No need for this, I think. Yeah. Developer here. So now whoever has access to whoever is part of developer group, whoever is part of developer group can create files in here. Okay, so ls-ld developer. So this is the output. Okay, I'm going to highlight one more time here. This is a developer who have access to it. Okay, and so we have so many files in here. user 1 is able to create files, okay? And then user regular user, any other user. Okay, wait a minute. But root is the user. A root user doesn't need any permissions or part of any group to create files anywhere, okay? Root user could create files and folders wherever that user wants. There is no restrictions for users. These are for only the regular users. Okay, so let me clear this. Touch file 6. Okay, the permission is denied for regular user. Zafar is not part of a group developer. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop here. Any questions?
So just a small question that Zafar can neither create a file in the developer group and cannot even read a file from the developer, isn't it?
Let's see. So cat file 1. So now he's able to read it, but he cannot create it.
Okay.
Okay. There are more stuff coming down. Then it will restrict him from using or even reading the file. Yeah, I'll show you in the permissions chapter.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so what else? So we super user group, user 1 is added to the group. We created a group and then user is added to the group. Okay, and can create the file in this folder here. So the permission is denied for the user here. Okay, now it's clear, right? A user could be part of many groups. He's a part of 2 groups here now, but a user can be part of many groups. I'm going to just put a note here that and also I'm going to make another note here. Root user has full access. Regardless of groups. Okay, so let's see here. I think I got everything covered here for the user administration. And there is a big chapter coming up for permissions here. What is all this permissions means, okay? These are all the permissions. I will explain you tomorrow since we don't have too much time here. All right, anybody have any questions, speak up here. So let me take a look here. We went through. So we use a user ad to create the user. Okay, there's the command here. And password passwd. Okay, we learn so many commands here, basic commands, but you will continue learning a lot of other commands here. Okay, and if you learn something new I never told you about, okay, don't hold a grudge against me, because I'm not going to tell you every command on the planet, but there will be a lot of commands. So id command will show you the user id. Password, it will set the password. Okay, I'm highlighting in here. And these are the files. Cat etc, this is the file where the password is sitting. Okay, and this is the group file where you could check the groups. And I'm not going to highlight this here. And this is the file where the password is physically. You could go see the password here. Okay, and it will keep, if you manually add and keep the same password, it will do it for you. Okay, this is where the default configuration folder is at, files for the folders. So you need a group add, and then the ID, and then the chmod. Okay, and these are change modification. Okay, yeah. All right, I think we ran out of time here. So if you think of any questions tomorrow, let me know. If not, then we'll proceed from here. Okay, please don't hesitate. Put it in the chat, and if you have any questions or concerns, and then try to. If you guys want, if you want all to do a group practice or something, we could. There is a. You could do the group practice also. I'll put in the link here if you want to do group practice. There is a. I think you could do it in Google now. Zoom, not Zoom. But there is one more. I'll put it in the group here. I don't remember on top of my head. You could use that conference and web video conferencing, and then it's free. And then you could do the group practice too. Okay. All right. I'm gonna end here. I'll catch up tomorrow, 8 a.m. Central. All right,
Okay, sir.
everybody. Yeah. Have a good day.
Have a good day, sir.
All right.
Thank you.